Happy New Year, everybody. Throughout this transition, we have been working hand in hand with the Vice President-elect with one goal in mind, and that is to make sure that President-elect Trump can hit the ground running when he takes office on the 20th. So we're getting right down to business. We are starting today on our work to deliver relief to Americans struggling under Obamacare. We must remember this. This law has failed. Americans are struggling. The law is failing while we speak. We need to reverse the damage that has been done. Then, once we repeal this law, we need to make sure that there is a stable transition to a truly patient-centered system. We want every American to have access to quality, affordable health coverage. All of the things that Obamacare has kept from the American people, more choices, more control, more freedom, we want to put them back in their hands. We know that things are only getting worse under Obamacare. This is about people paying higher premiums every year and feeling powerless to stop it. It's about families paying deductibles that are so high, it doesn't even feel like you have health insurance in the first place. And in so many parts of the country, as you've always heard, even if you want to look for better coverage, you're stuck with one option. One choice is not a choice, it is a monopoly. The healthcare system has been ruined, dismantled under Obamacare. The answer here is not to ignore the problem. The answer here is not to ignore the problem to keep some failed legacy. The answer here is bold action. Solve problems. Bring relief to Americans. We will help Americans crying out for relief from Obamacare, and we will keep our promise to the people. As you can see, we'll be working with the new administration on every step of this law, every step of the way, even before day one. With that, I want to hand it over to somebody that we all know very well because he served here with us. We're so proud of him, and we're so pleased about this new working relationship with our new Vice President-elect Mike Pence. I always said, yeah. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, he said it. I was there until the end. Nice notes.
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to the Speaker and to the leadership for the warm welcome today at the House Republican Conference. I'll be meeting later today with members of the Senate at their weekly luncheon. And this is a day that our message is very simple. On behalf of the President-elect and on behalf of all the leadership, that we are 16 days away from the end of business as usual in Washington, D.C. Today our message is very simple. Working with the leadership here in the House and in the Senate, we're going to be in the promise-keeping business. The President-elect campaigned all across this country. He gave voice to the frustrations and the aspirations of the American people. He laid out an agenda to make America great again. And my message on his behalf today before this conference and before members of the Senate is that we intend to keep those promises. That begins with assembling a government and the energetic effort through the course of this transition to build a cabinet that will be able to implement that agenda. Speaks for itself. It'll literally begin on day one. Before the end of the day, we do anticipate that the President-elect will be in the Oval Office taking action to both repeal executive orders and also set into motion through executive action policies to implement promises that were made on the campaign trail. Working with the Congress, we're going to have that classic three-part agenda that the President-elect talked about so often on the campaign trail. Jobs, jobs, jobs. The focus is going to be from day one to work with the Congress, and you heard about the efforts this week to begin to roll back the onerous regulations that have been stifling growth in the American economy and stifling jobs and opportunities. We're going to be working with the Congress over the course of the first several months to construct the kind of tax reform for businesses and individuals that will unleash the bound-up energy in the American economy. We're going to keep our promises to end illegal immigration, build a wall. We'll have an infrastructure bill. We'll invest in rebuilding our military as our Commander-in-Chief marshals strategies with our military commanders to hunt down and destroy ISIS. But the first order of business is to repeal and replace Obamacare. And that was our message today, and it'll be our message on Capitol Hill. And it needs to be done. not just as a promise kept, but because in the course of this election, the American people had a choice. And what appeared to many as against all odds, oftentimes with overwhelming opposition, our president-elect took his case to the American people to repeal and replace Obamacare, and the American people voted decisively for a better future for health care in this country, and we are determined to give them that. The reality is that I was here in March of 2010 in another capacity when Obamacare was signed into law. I remember all those promises. We were told that if you like your doctor, you can keep it. Not true. We were told if you like your health insurance, you can keep it. Not true. We were told that the cost of health insurance was going to go down. Not true. The reality is today, premiums this year are increasing by an average of 25% in some states. In Arizona, premiums went up this year 116%, 63% in Tennessee, 53% in Pennsylvania, 40% in North Carolina. Obamacare has worked a hardship on American families, on American businesses, and in a very simple conclusion, the American people have sent new leadership here because Obamacare has failed, and it has been rejected by the American people. But now it's the time for us to keep our promises. Step one will be to repeal Obamacare. But as the President-elect said today, and I admonished members of the House Republican Conference today, it's important that they remind the American people of what they already know about Obamacare, that the promises that were made were all broken. And I expect you'll see an effort in the days ahead to talk about the facts around Obamacare. And secondly, of course, is to begin that orderly transition to something better. The truth is that the commitment that the President-elect made was to repeal and replace Obamacare. And as he said this morning in a tweet, it will be important that we be careful as we do that we do that in a way that doesn't work a hardship on American families who've gained insurance through this program. It doesn't work a hardship on our economy. And as I told the House Republican Conference today, we're working on a strategy in concert with the leadership of the House and the Senate for both a legislative and executive action agenda to ensure that an orderly and smooth transition to a market-based health care reform system is achieved. The Speaker of the House used the word stable, and we will do that. In his famous speech in Philadelphia, the President-elect spoke about an orderly transition, and it will be that. But make no mistake about it. We're going to keep our promise to the American people, and we're going to repeal Obamacare and replace it with solutions that lower the cost of health insurance without growing the size of government. Now, there's a broad range of ideas about how we do this, and Republicans have been offering those ideas again and again, literally every year since Obamacare was first signed into law. We're going to be working with Dr. Price, both before and after his confirmation when he steps into the role at HHS, working with the Republican leadership in the House and the Senate to bring forward those solutions and to take the case for those solutions to the American people. With that being said, I couldn't be more humbled and more excited to be back in the Capitol today. I was encouraged by the President-elect to come here to Capitol Hill. It's the first full day of work for members of Congress because it's time to get back to work. And while others are visiting the Capitol today talking about defending the failed policies of the past, we are here today speaking to Republican majorities in the House and Senate to advance policies that will make America great again and have a more prosperous future for all the people of this nation.
Questions? Yep. Deidre. No shouting out. That's all good, but no shouting out.
The President-elect and I will receive a briefing from the leadership of our intelligence agencies this coming Friday. and we'll be listening in. But look, I think that the president-elect has expressed his very sincere and healthy American skepticism about intelligence conclusions. But we're going to sit down later this week. The President and I have been receiving, since the election, regular intelligence briefings. Received a presidential daily brief with the President yesterday, and we'll be looking at the facts and the information. But I think, given some of the intelligence failures of recent years, the President-elect's made it clear to the American people that he's skeptical about conclusions from the bureaucracy, and I think the American people hear him loud and clear.
Is this on a credible source? Mr. Speaker, as mentioned, the President-elect is warning you to be careful here. Is there a danger here? Why move forward with a repeal of Obamacare when you still don't have a clear plan
The President-elect is making an important point that we're trying to emphasize right here today, and that is so much damage has already been done to the country. Obamacare is a story of broken promise after broken promise after broken promise, followed by failing program, higher premiums, higher deductibles. So we want to make sure that as we give relief to people through Obamacare, we do it in a transition that doesn't pull the rug out from anybody during that transition period. That's the point that we're all trying to make. This law has failed. It's getting worse. Families are hurting. No one has choices. We've got to fix this by replacing it with something better. And in that transition, we want to make sure we don't pull the rug out from anybody during that transition. That's the point we're all trying to make.
Why still no plan to replace it?
We have a plan to replace it. We have plenty of ideas to replace it, and you'll see as the weeks and months unfold what we're talking about replacing it. How we can get better choices with lower prices by not having a costly government takeover of healthcare, which is causing all this problem in the first place. Sherman.
For the Vice President-elect, or both of you guys, I guess, we're talking about a transition that's going to happen relatively quickly. He's going to take action the first day. Is it possible to extend some of these provisions, which the President-elect and you all have said are popular, for a temporary period of time? I mean, I think people want to know what this is going to look like, and not only us in the room, but I think people across the country.
Well, Jake, I think I want to be very clear, and I would commend you and anyone looking on to look into. No, I was commending you to do something, not commending you.
Not yet. That's right.
That's nice. It's good to be back. It really is.
It was good.
I would commend all of your attention the President-elect's speech in Philadelphia during the waning weeks of the campaign, where he laid out a plan to repeal and replace Obamacare. He laid out the principles of harnessing the power of health savings accounts, allowing Americans to purchase health insurance across state lines. But his commitment was very clear in that we will insist upon and implement, working with the Congress, but also using executive authority to ensure that that is an orderly transition. And we're working right now, the White House staff is, on a series of executive orders that will enable that orderly transition to take place, even as the Congress appropriately debates alternatives to and replacement of Obamacare.
It sounds like you're saying some of these provisions might stay in place until there's a new full plan.
Jake, we've been saying all along, we don't want to pull the rug out from people while we're replacing this law. The point is, in 2017, we don't want people to be caught with nothing. We want to make sure that there's an orderly transition so that the rug is not pulled out from under the families who are currently struggling under Obamacare while we bring relief. Yeah.
President Pence, on the ACA repeal and replace, can you give detail on the executive actions that are planned, and how does that square with the complex budgetary process that's also involved?
They're hand in glove. So we're working on the legislative process right now. As you know, the Senate's going to be acting first next week, then the Congress will follow, which gives us the budget resolution we need to bring the legislation through, while the administration works on the executive orders that they're talking about to deliver the kind of transition relief that we've been talking about. The problem is, just remember, Obamacare has failed. Families are hurting. They broke the healthcare system. It's a string of broken promises. So we're going to make sure that we have an orderly transition to a better system so we can get back to what we all want, which is lower cost healthcare, more choices, so that families can actually get affordable healthcare at a decent price with more choices, more competition, and not a costly government takeover that has really bankrupt this healthcare system and left families struggling.
Mr. just, if I can respond to that, I'd be happy to. We're working out right now with the White House staff and in concert with legislative leadership a two-track approach to ensuring that it is an orderly transition as the President-elect has directed. You read his tweet this morning that he has admonished the Congress to be careful, and I reiterated that before the Republican conference today. Look, we're talking about people's lives. We're talking about families. But we are also talking about a policy that has been a failure virtually since its inception. And we intend to, over the course of the coming days and weeks, to be speaking directly to the American people about that failure, but about a better future we can have in healthcare, a future that is built not on growing government, not on mandates, not on taxes, but rather a future that's built on giving the American people more choices in healthcare, allowing the power of the free marketplace to flow in. But the transition to that, we will work out in a way that reflects the compassion of the President-elect and the compassion of every member of Congress to see to it that we do that in a way that serves the best interest of the American people. But look, I think what's clear here is the American people have spoken. They want to see us repeal and replace Obamacare. And today, my message to members of Congress is that we are going to be in the promise-keeping business. And the first order of business is to keep our promise to repeal Obamacare and replace it with the kind of health care reform that will lower the cost of health insurance without growing the size of government.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks.